ever since I was a little girl, I had a deep interest in France, and it has pulled me into diving deep into, esoteric and occult knowledge, and the connections with, the Cathars, the Knights Templars, and also ISIS. And so I just wanted to talk upon something that I wrote down a little while ago, and I've done a few posts on my Facebook about this, about ISIS connecting to Paris. See, gods and goddesses tend to govern certain areas, certain cities, countries even. I mean, Australia would be more of a serpentine, I'd say, god or goddess. It has very, like the serpent energy here, the rainbow serpent. But France, Paris has strong ties to goddess Isis, and I will talk about this, a matron goddess of mine. So I just want to read you a little summary that I wrote about this. Okay. So the mysteries of the goddess Isis drift through hidden veins of France, like whispers from an ancient temple buried beneath cathedrals and old stone streets. Before the modern world that silenced the sacred feminine, seekers believed Isis was not merely an Egyptian god, but a living symbol of divine wisdom, rebirth, magic, and the eternal mother. In ancient Gaul and later esoteric traditions, traces of Isis appeared mysteriously across France. Some occult historians linked her to the Black Madonnas hidden within old churches, believing they carried echoes of older goddess worship. Beneath Christian symbolism, Paris itself has long been surrounded by legends connecting to Isis. Some even claiming the city's name once carried the vibration of Par-Isis. So, isn't that interesting? Paris, Par-Isis. I mean, same with Israel, Isis, Ra, El. Okay, anyway, though historians debate this myth as a myth, but, the modern world likes to hide the old world. And I'm very much into uncovering the old world. Okay, so though historians debate the myth, still the symbolism remains powerful. Templars, alchemists, Rosicrucians, and mystics all saw France as a land of hidden currents, where the veil between worlds was thin. Cathedrals were said to be built upon ancient sacred sites dedicated to the divine feminine long before Christianity. Beneath the stained glass and the Gothic arches, initiates searched for the mysteries of transformation, death, and spiritual awakening that Isis embodied. Isis was the keeper of hidden knowledge, the healer, the mourner, who resurrected Osiris, the mother of sacred kinship. To walk the path of Isis was to descend into darkness and return reborn. Even now, France carries an atmosphere of old esoteric memory in its catacombs, its Gothic cathedrals, its alchemical symbols carved into forgotten walls. The mysteries of Isis were never truly lost. They simply went underground. So anyone that truly knows me knows I have a deep fascination for old secret societies of the old world and unveiling the old world. I want to unveil her, I want to get deep within that, the mysteries, and talk upon this because it's my passion, it's my interest. I have many interests, and my psychic abilities are not only to speak with spirits and, connecting to different dimensional entities from the higher realms, lower realms, astral realms, different planetary spheres, there's a whole multitude, of different entities and things that I connect with, but I also connect with the energies of places. So that's why a lot of the time, it's not just, because I feel like France has been a place that I have incarnated in a previous life. It's not that I have a physical memory. Same with England. It's not that I have a physical memory. I just have a celestial memory. That's just, we store that and we can feel it, and we can feel it in our passions and what we're drawn to, and what, is that kind of memory that pops up, but we can't quite grasp it because it's not a physical memory. As I said, it's a spiritual memory from a previous life. So I have that, but I have an interest in different places of spiritual power. Okay, so different places of significant spiritual importance of these places that are sacred. I have a respect for that and an interest in that. So, I speak a lot about Atlantis and, Eurasia, I speak a lot about Russia, and there is a power in Russia that, I speak about. And, these in Israel and, and Egypt, there's places that are held with power, from gods. As I said, they govern places, and they're still very much alive from the old world. However, the new world has kind of emerged and integrated within them. So you have the new energies of the new timeline with the old. So you've got the old world and the new world mixed, so it's creating a very confusing energy. But when someone's psychic and they can feel the old world still very much so, and, so that's all mixed. And, when you go into Middle Eastern countries, you feel the Islamic mosques and the egregoric energy from them also, so plus the old world, and not only just gods govern these places, there's planetary forces and angels and, elementals. You've got, people just think there's only just like deities or demons, there's just, there's always a negative and a positive, right? You've always got the Clipothic realms kind of adding to that, because we live in this kind of negative, positive, dual nature of everything. But it's kind of like people just think there's just two kinds of things. There's so many, if you look at all the species on the planet, why would there be so many different species on a planet if it's just that way in the spirit? Because I believe what is in the astral, as above, so below, what is in the spirit is also, and in the astral, is also manifested, impregnated into the physical. That's how manifestation and the animation of that from, the spiritual is manifested into the physical. That's how it all works. Anyway, I just want to talk about, the order of warrior monks. So going back to Isis and France, and wanted to speak a little bit on the Knights Templars. So the warrior monks that rose to immense power in medieval France, protected by kings and feared by enemies and accused of heresy. The Templars, they became the guardians of sacred knowledge and hidden wisdom in countries, like Israel, and, they gathered relics and, important treasures and artifacts and things like that within, like, their symbolic meaning and spiritual connection to these countries and places and things. This wisdom in countless legends. Some believe they uncovered ancient mysteries beneath Jerusalem, connected to the old mystery religions. This is what I was talking about, is Ra-El, including the rites of Isis, resurrection, symbolism, sacred geometry, and the divine feminine worship. And that goes with the Mary Magdalene teachings also. Like, there's a lot of mixture from Israel, Judaism, ancient Egyptian mysteries, and, it's kind of like of Hermeticism. It's all kind of like combined into all these teachings into one. So kind of into like, I wouldn't say it's one, but, it's kind of something that's within these, you've got Rosicrucians and the Freemasons, that have these teachings and knowledge that has been, protected, and they teach in symbolism and geometry through this kind of like storytelling to keep the wisdom alive. When the Templars were persecuted in France in 1307, under King Philip, many believe their teachings disappeared underground into secret brotherhoods, like what I was just talking about, like the brotherhoods of Rosicrucian traditions, Freemasonry, and these occult lineages that later flourished throughout Europe, with their connection between Isis and France and the Knights Templars continues to fascinate me, So, like, it's just something that I've been guided to, and I've posted about it many times. But anyway, France became, like a crossroad where pagan memory and Christian mysticism and esoteric orders merged into one of the most mysterious spiritual landscapes in the world. And these were, symbolic structures and symbolism is carved into these places. So as much as people want to speak about Freemasonry as evil and all these different orders as evil and corrupt, there is a spiritual guardianship of knowledge, of wisdom, and of the old world that should be respected in a way, because without that, our history of this is not guarded, and it needs to be guarded because this kind of knowledge and wisdom is something to be treasured, and it should be respected in that way. And that is what I enjoy. I like, and I get pleasure and enjoyment out of the symbolism of, the carvings, the statues, the old world of everything. I have a deep respect for that, and the teachings and the knowledge. But with the ego mixed into it, not so interested. But I'm interested in the old world. And so people question me, like, you know, why is she so interested? If she is a truth seeker, why is she so interested in these things? Because they're important. They're very important. They're very important to me. And as I said, I treasure that knowledge. I treasure the old world. And if you like it or not, they're part of the old world. Like paganism is, like, you know, all these ancient, even Eurasian, you know, like the Shambhala, the Atlantean kind of, because that's where it all stems from, right? It's a mixture of those two that the teachings have flourished over time and evolved, you know, in different cultures. However, they have that one meaning, really, you know, that spiritual meaning to it all. Even though they're all different, they're all the same, if you get what I'm saying.